Hi, hello. Yes, during the years with Ansible, I was always ranting why there is no debugger, so we tried to implement one. Our talk will be about what was the motivation, a few examples, what this implementation Ansible debugger is, what it's not, and we will talk about the implementation details, and at the end, we will have a live demo. So the motivation. Whenever you need to write something that is not a true example inside the Ansible Playbook, it's hard to find out what's the current state, what the variables available are, what's their structure, and things like that. And also whenever you have a data from the, let's say, from the complex APIs, you need to find out how to map and filter those data. So you.
You're going to use two microphones. Yeah, we have to do that. If I can't hear at the back, we've got a full room, unfortunately. Sorry, we've got a full room, so we're trying to get the noise to the back of you as well.
Yes, yes, previously there was also no multi.
Yeah,
it was also quite just the. Okay.
Too unfortunate.
So. Okay. Okay. Okay, I will put it here. Okay, it's less delayed than the few years ago. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Should I continue from the beginning or from?
No, it's up to you. I don't mind.
Okay, I will just continue from where I stand, so where I ended, so I wasn't far. So what is the agenda for today? It's motivation, why to build a own debugger. I will show a few examples. I will explain to details what debugger supports, what it doesn't, show the implementation details, and the live demo at the end. So motivation is whenever one tries to write a long and real life Ansible playbook, it becomes hard. If you use an API, you usually have a documentation, but not always, and the results from the playbooks from the task can be pretty complex. So it's a lot easier if you can inspect the values instead of just printing them and looking at them. So for the most languages or the compiled ones, you always have a debugger where you can use that functionality, and at least officially is missing inside the Ansible. So when you try to write, when you need to inspect data from the APIs or from the structured files, what are your common ideas how to get the values or the structure of the data that you need to use?
Debug message or pause prompt?
Yes, this is, you are talking about Ansible built-in debug, probably?
And the third one is Ansible debug.
Yes. Okay.
So there are three options?
There are at least 5 or 6, but yes, they are more or less the same, but all not so handy. So first one is printf debugging. So you can use verbose mode. So with 4 V's or something like that, you get all the intermediate results also to the prompt, so you can just copy them out from them. And if in the language of debugger, it's outputs the data and continues with the execution. It doesn't stop it automatically. So you have also Ansible built-in debug, which also prints, but it doesn't stop. And then you have Ansible built-in fail, which outputs the message and stops the execution. But you don't have any choice in advance. So whenever it happens, it happens. Then you have a debugger keyword inside the Ansible, so on each task you can use it, and you can say when it should stop, on fail, on always, or whatever you want. But the problem from my view is that it doesn't actually explain how to use it. The documentation on the web is not the best, and even it's not self-explaining. So here I intentionally put some log here, because whenever it stops, it says you have those commands. And without looking the Ansible code itself, I wasn't able to find out how to get the result from the task. So here, first try was, okay, P, print me something. It says I cannot print because it doesn't have the second parameter. The next time, okay, you guess maybe it's result. Okay, you get some value, but it's object representation. So at the end, we also tried, and then we finally find out that you have a result dot underscore result, which actually contains the value of the variable that was returned from the task. So it's not being handy. So the next option is that one can use STD callback plugins. So if you are doing with debug or verbose mode or debugger, it's always hard to copy paste those data. You can break the structure. But if you have a STD callback, you can write it to the file. You have a YAML and also the JSON are most known. And you can write your own and write just the responses from the hooks that you want to. So another option is also that one can abuse Python debugger. So if you put the breakpoint on the correct spot inside Ansible, you can actually debug it as any other Python code. You just set to debugger run Ansible Playbook, and you find out inside Ansible record the point where you want to stop. And from that point, if you know where to put it, you will get all the Ansible variables at that point, once also containing the resulting structures. And now to what we made. So here I will represent the implementation of debugger. So it's a native IDE debugger for VS Code. And as a disclaimer, about 2.5 years ago, the first one was published from Gibran 93 Ansible. It predates my first attempts for about half a year. I know that I was writing the first lines of debugger when I was in Ghent, more or less, 2 years ago. So I know it was in January and February 2024. And this was from 2023. So now I will explain you what spotter debugger actually is. So what it does and what it doesn't. So to explain it very short, it can help you with playbooks, and it helps you to debug playbooks, roles, and tasks, because more or less everything is just a list of tasks. So playbook is the thing that have everything inside, role is a subset of the task, and task itself is just one task. The idea is that you can put the breakpoint on any task inside the YAML file, so you decide which one you want to look at. I hope that it's at least a bit readable. What are the identified use cases that debugger can solve? One is that we can retrieve the result structure. So the idea is, if you are using ServiceNow, let's say, you can get really complex objects. Here I show the value where you actually get the list from the incident info, where you get the list of the results. Inside the results, each result is inside the list. Inside the list, you also have the properties. Inside that property, I wanted to know about the attachments, and and there you have also a list of the attachments. And from that attachment, I need a specific property. So with just looking at the documentation, it's a bit hard. But if you have a debugger, it's on the left side. You can see that it's actually so incident result records for the fourth element, attachments, the first attachment, and then you look at the data that you want. So it's easy to look at. So the next really useful thing is that one can evaluate Jinja expression. In my experience, you always kind of guess them. You get to the one point, and okay, I will try that one. Okay, that doesn't work. I will try the next try, and you have this repetition. It takes 5 to 10 guesses if it's complex. Otherwise, it's 1 or 2. But again, time just going up. You're just throwing time away. So I also had a problem with listing Ansible facts. Usually, the idea is that sometimes you don't know on which exact Ansible Python instance it was run, or what are the specifics of the machines that you are running on, and you usually need to know the name of the variable itself, or you just need to dump the whole vars directory of the Ansible. And since my work in the last 2 years is more or less upgrading the playbooks for big FSI companies, so financial services. They have hundreds of playbooks, and you are talking with about 3 or 4 people which are responsible for all of that, and surely nobody knows what those playbooks should actually do. So the idea is port me this from Ansible 2.9 or 2.15 to the later version, latest possible version, which you find out which servers do you have, and then you choose which version. And the idea is that if you started at 2.5, 2.9, you don't have FQCNs, and then it's a guesswork. So you don't know. You hope that you know what they actually used. There are official rewrites that are written inside Ansible core itself, so most of the redirects can be solved. But there always stays some, and the easiest way to actually find out what was actually used is to run it in the debugger, and you have a variable inside the Ansible, which is a result action, which actually tells you which exact module was used, so you know, so there is no double guessing. Example for that is, let's say, Ansible built-in user and ServiceNow ITSM user. It's if you use the short name as a user, you need to guess which one was used there, but if you can run a playbook, you know exactly which one was used. Then you have also, if you use inline, baby JSONs is the actual name for those. If you inline the whole code inside one line, it's problem or not, it's a stylic idea, it's stylic thing. But the problem is when you define the same arguments in 2 different ways. Here you have echo something, and you set executable inside the top line and inside the arguments. And on the left side, you can see that the one that is inline actually overrides the one that is defined inside the args. And those are the things that when you see the hundreds and thousands of playbooks, those appears there. So, and you need to decide which is the correct one, usually the one that is de facto, which is used in the production, which is actually used, so you use that one, and you just drop the other one. And now also the delegate to and local action, it has the same problem. You don't get any warning. It just delegate to local action just overrides all the values. It doesn't matter what the host is, it doesn't matter what the delegate to value is, it will just use the local action, so it will run it on the local system. And it doesn't complain that you also try to delegate to, which should be a conflicting action, so I would expect that there will be at least warning or it should fail. Also during the debugging, it's usually the painter's algorithm. You start something, you debug to some point, and you try to or also when you are debugging, you try to run playbook to some point, and then you want to stop the execution to not to break the system, because usually you get all the facts, you calculate what you need to do, and then you actually act. And with the debugger, it's easy just to put a breakpoint there, run it till that point, inspect the values, and then just break the debugger. And really important part here is, yes, you can do the same with Ansible with the debugger functionality. You just say always and it will stop there, but then you need to remove it before the releasing to production. And another option is also Ansible built-in fail, but again, if you forgot to remove it, it will just break the production. And now I will go to the specifications of the debugger, how it's implemented, what control flow it supports, and the main functionalities. It was done as Visual Studio Code plugin. It uses DAP, it's Debugger Adapter Protocol. I really admire it. It's really nice. It's really easy to use. So if you ever do stuff with the compilers and debuggers, it's self-explanatory what the guy should do to implement it. So it was actually implementation was a bit easier than I expected. Protocol helped me, and it's during the project we find out that using if you have multiple Python files, it's always the problem with Python path and things like that. So it's the easiest to just use the single file, and also it's not so complex task that you cannot implement everything by yourself. So yes, JSON RPC is not, or at least was not, probably still not, is available inside default Python libraries. but it's easier to implement it in that file than edit the logic how to use that library all the time. So you need to know how to install it, how to deploy it, and it's just more work than actually implementing it your own. And which Ansible versions are supported? By luck, Ansible is quite mature and stable product. So I implemented it actually on version 2.16. And when I was trying to run it to be sure, I found out that it's the same code of debugger actually works from version 2.11 to 2.18. And the only break was from 2.19 on. And the actual problem was that before that, you can run Ansible from any thread. And from 2.19 on, it must be main thread. And this is the problem with the debugger because usually you spawn a separate thread on which you run the application that you want to debug. Here I need to make the dirty trick where you just pause the main thread and use the second thread for the debugger, and then you start the application in the main thread, and that was all. It was 10 lines of code actually. So what Python versions and OS are supported? Whatever I do on CPython, so I don't know for anything else. I didn't test it. And we tested on the Linux and macOS, and in both systems it worked without the problem. I would say that for the Mac, I think that there are the problem that if you use virtual environment, it works well, but without it there are some glitches. So I would recommend to use it inside the virtual environment. So what control flow this debugger supports? It supports to put the breakpoint. The granularity is per task. So if you have a one long YAML, even if the YAML task is 20 lines long, you have only one entry point. You don't know on which part of it is. It's a declarative language. It's hard to define, okay, I would like to go over the line. Because in normal language, when you have for, if, you know where you are. I'm doing the for now, I'm if, and go through the line and the line. But here, it's a bit harder. Then another idea is that you can stop on entry. This is the thing where this happens even before gather facts. So even sometimes you find out that when you try to run Ansible, it fails even before gather facts. This is if you set the Ansible config wrong, so where you have a Python or how to use SSH and things like that, it helps a lot. Then normal functionality is the step, which is here is more or less what I implemented is step into. So whenever you stop, you can go to the next task. And even if it's include the role or import role, it will go to the first task of that role. So it's why it's step into. Step over will be, if there will be import, it should jump over, but it doesn't. And then you have a continue functionality, just run from here to the next breakpoint or to the end. And now we are at the choices that are not so obvious. Inside Ansible, where should I stop? Should I stop for each iteration of loop or not? So in some cases you want to know why this loop never happened. So you want to stop in every case to inspect why, what is wrong with the items. In the second case, I want to loop over 1,000 elements. Do I really want a breakpoint here? There? No, I don't want to press F5 5,000 times to get over. So you can decide in advance which version do you want to use. So depending on where the Python breakpoint must be to import the debug functionality, it's named strategy and action. So strategy strategy item happens once for execution of the task, and action happens for each iteration inside the task. And in both cases we have lag because the when statement is executed really late. So in both cases we can expect what will happen, why something didn't happen if the when was false. So you can expect it in front. So whenever you stop the debugger, you can, or whenever you are stopped on the breakpoint, you can check what the facts are, what are the values of all variables, and you can also inspect task arguments that were received by the task. This is shown by, let's say, this inline inline task inside the YAML, because there you actually need to know what was actually calculated at the end. And another thing that is really important is dynamic evaluation of expressions, because then you have multiple tries without the reruns. Due to time limitation mostly, I would say, we support inspection and runtime evaluation only inside the type strategy. So when you stops one at once, the problem is that Ansible does a lot of things good, and one of them is that it separates the processes so one cannot tamper the other. So whenever you are running the action, it actually runs in the separate processes. So the variables are protected. You cannot break anything in the main system. So the problem is whenever you are debugging, you are actually doing multi-process debugging. So I need to I need to implement feature when I will have a multi-process communication, and I will send requests and the values over the processes. And this is just a technical limitation, and if I would have more time, I would already do it. And now it's also important to tell what Ansible Debugger is not. So it doesn't solve all the problems, or more importantly, it even does do not need to do. So it's not really well described on the official Red Hat pages. I'm not sure why, but one can more or less already debug almost all plugin types that there are for the Ansible. So for action plugin, you just go to the code of the action plugin, you put the breakpoint on the line that you want to break on, run the run the Python debugger, and it will stop, and you can inspect. More or less, this is important for the authors of the collections or the ones who write their own plugins, but those people are not so rare, so it helps a lot. So for inventory plugin, it works exactly the same. You just put the breakpoint and you run it, and if you know the sequence of the instructions or the functions how they are run, you can more or less start on the first point whenever your inventory plugin is called, so it's totally covered. For virtual test and lookup plugin, it's exactly the same, because all this stuff runs on the controller node, so on the node that you're running the code. So it's, again, you just put the breakpoint. It doesn't matter if it's Ansible core or if it's your own collection. You just put the point. If it's Ansible core, it's inside side packages. If it's your collection, it's listed by Ansible Galaxy collection list, and you just get the path and put the breakpoint inside that file. Okay, and it also doesn't support module strategy and some other things. From my opinion, the one that is most problematic is module, because for the module, it runs on the separate machine. It's the power of the Ansible that it can execute code on the separate machine, but again, it's hard to debug it because it sends the zip file over, it unzips it and run the code there. So this is not covered. And who is mostly affected by that? All authors of collections, because it's hard to debug them while, let's say, I was co-author for Ansible service, for ServiceNow ITSM. I wasn't the first author, but I was in between. And whenever we're writing the new module, more or less, one need to use printf and trace exception debugging, more or less. You know in which point you are, you raise exception, see, okay, my code went over there, I print the variable. And this is the thing that's still missing, so if somebody have a spare time, it's a good point to, a lot of people would be really happy if somebody implements that. But are those only the authors of the collection that has those problems? No. Also, large enterprises with the most that we were working and that they are using AAP and have, let's say, playbooks and at least in hundreds, they usually write their own plugins, so on modules, on actions and things like that. So they actually need that functionality. It's not that it's not needed at all. Okay, and now I would like to show you the demo, so it's not just the words. I will, okay, I need to go to, okay, I will go here. This is current version of the compiler, of the debugger. You can see that it's
not showing at the moment.
okay. Okay. Any idea how to do it? Okay, I will try to share a screen. Okay, I need to stop presentation for a bit, I would say. Okay, and I will go here. Okay, yes. Okay, as you can see, it's just about 1,000 lines, and this is everything. It doesn't use any external library. If you go to the imports, which are on the top, all of this is basic Python imports. It should work from Python 3.9 on, and even that is because I use some typing inside, and it's not fully supported before. So I will run it from in the debug mode. So I just need to find the library, the one that is not already filled. So, okay, what I said is, okay, inside the, I have inside the configuration, one can set that I would like to use the YAML type, which Ansible has extension YAML. So debug the current file, stop on entry is false because I don't need that functionality, trace is true because I want to have lock so I can debug, debug the debugger. Debug type is strategy because I want to show the full functionality, how one can evaluate the variables. And you can put and all debugger also pass through all the variables that are sent to Ansible Playbook. So here one can choose its own inventory, or can use, and one can also send all password and just set where it is. So whenever, whichever switch you can send to Ansible Playbook, you can send also the debugger, and it will Ansible Playbook will be executed with all those switches. So here we go to, okay. Okay, this is normal stuff. So you go to the playbook that you want to debug, you click F5, and it stops here. I can also show that it's not, okay, we can go here, and we will show that, okay, I'm going to move with F5. It stops here, next action, and we are here. Okay, and now, okay, this artificial example, this should be easy. So here I can write sum of numbers. Okay, I'll just need to look the variables, so numbers. Okay, I have a numbers. Numbers. If one doesn't make a typo, it's easier. So I can see them, I can inspect them, I can also see them inside the variables tab. I will hide that one for a bit. So you can see also see them here, and also can try the expressions. And so we can go here, so numbers, and automatically gives you the possible options. Those are all the options that you get by Python inspect. And so here we find out that it's an object, that it's a list, and you will get all the functions that can be executed on the list. So the sum is one of them. So and it also puts you the arguments that can be used, but in our case we just want to sum the numbers. You get the number. The sum is 28, and the sum from 1 to 7 is actually 28. And the idea is whenever you debug your playbook, on that point you can write your own expression from that point. I usually just use it like that. Just copy that. And we get this in the 1 or 0 iterations. And now, okay, I mistakenly clicked Shift Control D, so I need to copy it again. Okay, copy. Okay, so flatten the list. It's here is about. It works a bit not as good as others, but again, so we have on the left we can see that we have variable defined list of lists which we want to flatten. So we have list We have list of lists. And now we need to find the correct function. Flatten is actually not listed. I need to check why, but again, if you use it, it will give you the correct solution. And again, you can just copy paste inside the list. And now to a bit harder items. So last item, color. So we have the variable object with colors. So we need to do actual functions now. So the idea is, okay, how would we start? Okay, we need the variable that we are talking about. So the last item, we can have, let's say, last would be a nice example, or -1, it also works in Python. So if we go here, we can use the last item, yes. We get the, okay, this, I need to, this, okay, and we get intermediate object already, so we know, we can see what we can use. So on that object we want to get the property color, so because the precedent of operators we need to do the brackets, and we get the variables that are alive on that variable, so age, color or name, and in this case we want the color, and we get the value back. So then we have a, let's say for color of blue, so we can go to object with colors, and here okay, I need to put O in front. We have object with colors. Okay, one can use, let's say, select attribute. Its definition inside the Python is bet, because it's args and quarks and you don't know what the actual values are. But one can, let's say, which attribute do we need? We want to use the color of B, so we need to use, we will look by name, the operator will be equals, it's equals, and the value should be B. Yes. And we can see that we get the right element. Okay, this element is actually a list, so we need to get the first element. We got that element, and we also need the color. So again, we can just put the brackets around. And just put dot color. And again, one can then just copy paste this equation inside the color of B. And name of youngest is also object with colors. One would use probably sort. Here it's nice because it shows you that one can use this reverse option. We can, let's say, reverse true. For those one, we don't need them. And we can say, in this case, we want last instead of first, just to show that reverse is also. Autocomplete inside the debug console is not nicest because it concatenates the previous string plus the one you selected, so I need to remove that part. Okay, and now it tells us that we made a mistake. Less, okay. Okay, we will do without this sort first. Object with colors. Oh, we need to, it's an object and we need to sort by an attribute and attribute. And since I don't know the name, it's better to actually go to the beginning. And we have the attribute, so this is the name that we want to use for the sorting. And in this case, we want to sort by age. And we want to get the first element. And we get, and now it's easy, it's just the brackets around and also the color, and we are there. So without the debugger, one would need to go to Jinja official page, look for the properties there, look for the parameters, and run the playbook a few times. And on the artificial example, it doesn't look that problematic. That's why I want to show you also the real example. When you have a ServiceNow API and the task is is taking a long time, so the round trip is not so fast than here, because one would here would be able to run it every time, and since throwing away about 10 or 20 seconds to arrive to this point is not that problematic. For that point, I need to enable the internet, because I also have a problem, because AI at this time is good enough that it already gives you nice suggestions. So if you are edited them here, those are not those are almost correct. So I didn't want to use that. Okay, I need to have internet connection here. Okay, this is main. Okay, we can go to the, and all that one need to do is now to go to playbook that you want to have, and we can go here. And now, okay, here we are fast because we execute the breakpoint starts before the actual task is executed. So it was fast till here. And one can use, let's say, step, and we will get the result back, which is not that simple. Okay, it's still running. The internet connection should be here, but I would see. But if there's not, it's the idea is that the task is not that fast, and one, let's say, I want to get the task which gets at least one result, and the idea is that you need to go to the result object, you need to go to the records, you need to know that there are records, you need to know that there are attachments, and you want to only get attachments that are not empty, and you also convert it to a list, so it's there. Okay. I just need to check on. I used the roaming, but it was working nicely today. Okay, it should work. Okay, I will just try once more, and if it doesn't work, I won't. But okay, we are here, and now the thing, okay, and now vetting about Ansible, or at least old Ansibles. If you go here, it's the password. Debugger, by definition, have access to all memory, and if you go to host, we see it's of the type Ansible code. Ansible Unicode. If you go to the password, it's a type of Ansible Vault encrypted Unicode. The idea is I can implement in the debugger that these values would not be shown copied over, but it's the thing that anybody else can do. But I think through the tests, I think that with Ansible 2.19 it's solved. And the even bigger issue from my point is if one uses now as an instance dot password, you get the value, and it says okay, this value, but can I have it? Probably I need the watch. Okay, I will just the password. Okay. Here it's vault encrypted, but if one just does, one can do one can use as an instance dot password password plus and it says it's unsafe text. So debugger itself cannot say, okay, it says it's volt variable, would not send it over, because evaluation of any string function over a secret is a string. But I hope that I cannot reproduce this in Ansible 2.18, but in front I can. But I will go back to the presentation, and I still think that it's not such a big problem, and I will explain you why. If we go here, I will just, okay. Okay, we were here. Okay. What I've shown is that the masking secrets is not perfect. You can see all the variables, but why can you see it? You were able to run Ansible Playbook from your machine. You have access to all Ansible vaults, and you also had to put the password for the vault, so it got unencrypted. So you have all the items there. It's just the border is a bit below, but you have access to all items, so it's probably not escalation of the, it's not a privileged escalation. And even from my point is that I think that it was already, okay, it was 2.19, where I cannot reproduce that, so it's probably solved, or I just need to take more time. And if it is a problem, it's most probably the problem of Ansible core, because the debugger is just a attachment around. You can use the same principles to abuse the system. But from my point, you need to know all the data anyway, so it's just printing the different way. And what is still not implemented inside the debugger, it's the setting of the variables. And it's another thing that is done really well inside the Ansible. Whatever you run, whenever any external plugin is used, everything is cloned. So whatever you do the variables, the other actions would not see and would not be a problem. And then whenever you do the implementation of debugger, so you want to set variable, that means that you can change it that context. So you have an echo function, you replace the one variable and it will echo the new value. But on the next task, the old value will be used. If you do it in the global context, it will be used for all the next tasks, but it won't be used for your execution. And the last item is you can change in both of them, but again, it's not nice option. I don't agree with any of those. It's just doesn't feel right. And that's about it. You can have questions, and you can get in touch with this information. Yes?
Can you just repeat the question?
Yes, I will.
I think it's a wonderful tool, I love it. I'm not a user of VS Code, but do you have a version that doesn't require that too?
Let's say it's 95% of the code is the bug adapter protocol. So if you use a NeoVim or things like that use that protocol, it shouldn't be hard to port it there, because it uses the standard protocol.
But that's not been done yet.
No, I didn't did it for the others. And I want to repeat the question because I forgot to do it. The question was, if you don't use Visual Studio Code, can you use it in the other editor? Quick answer is no. Long, without much work, it should be possible. Yes, please.
For an enterprise user writing their own plugins, of which my company does a lot, do you have any advice for how to make those plugins more debuggable in your debugger and just in general in Ansible debugging and even Python debugging?
Okay, in my debugger, let's say if you were, my debugger covers the, okay, your questions, you write a lot of your own plugins, how you can make them debuggable in any system. In this debugger that I showed is how one can debug the tasks, so it's more or less doesn't help you a lot, but I showed you the cases, the screenshots where one can see that you can debug more or less everything but modules. And there you just put the breakpoint on the Python code, which is entry point to your item. So I usually, even with the modules, I recommend that you have the function with the standard name, which is the entry point, and you put breakpoint there and you Python debug it. This was the most useful, and in the worst cases, raise exception and look at the values. That was the way that we did it in the past. Okay, please.
In your example, you modified the arguments in a task. Is it possible to then rerun the task while the debugger is still running?
No, there are. The reason is that I actually breakpoint on the specific line inside the Python. So if I give the new value and run from that point on, there is no simple way to tell Python to run over that line of code again. And I know this is the functionality that Ansible Playbook Debugger has, if you do have this CLI which is in the loop, but this is because they specially implement it like that, so you can do it on that spot. Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, so it's not quite clear for me if you can debug variables, for instance, or default values, because sometimes in variables or default values might be like Jinja expression. So is it possible to set a debug point, for instance, in variables and see what value comes into variables when you evaluate some variable and then
okay.
what's going on?
Okay, your question is, since the variable precedence is hard, you would like to know if with the help of this tool you can find out how the variable gets those values at the end. At the moment, I would say no, because those precedence is calculated before we enter the tasks themselves. Yes?
And thank you. And the next question is my understanding correct that if you have like a playbook or role, so sequence of tasks, yeah, if I adjust the task below the breakpoint, it will run adjusted tasks, so it will somehow reload the playbook.
No, as I said, we do not allow to set the values inside the Ansible playbook. It's because all the variables are cloned, so you don't know where to apply them. So you have a variable manager, and inside your task, whenever you run it, you get a copy of those values. And if you run it and change any variable in front of them, yes, you will get the task which was executed on those new arguments, and the result will be from the task with these new arguments. That's correct. But so the result will be the new one, but the arguments will be the old one after the task execution. Because the old facts will stay the same, you temporarily change the facts, and you add a new result to the facts.
But also the tasks, is it task for